People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in. I hope you're all doing well and safe. Hope the same can be said to your families on this Monday morning. Before I begin, make sure you check out the bio. That Vibe, you know, it's a lovely clothing brand. Simplicity is genius. They've sorted me out with a couple of these black tees and a couple of these hats among everything. And you know, man, go and check them out, man. It's a lovely business, and especially in these times, let me call a spade a spade. It's a lovely black owned business, so I'll always support people doing good things. And yeah, man, check it out, links in the description and things like that. But moving forward, people, now you lot know a lot is being said in relation to Arsenal or just people's preparation for games with the Covid-19 virus, and you heard more so against City. You know, we had to do a madness, 2 coaches for social distancing measures, you know, make a round trip. 1 minute we're flying into Manchester, then we're driving up the road to Liverpool to go back. Our whole arrangements before, during and after the game were pretty chaotic. The Athletic, or specific to David Ornstein today, has come out and said, it's best I just read it. I think someone's tested positive for coronavirus. Again, let me read it and make of it what you want. But the Athletic has learned that Arsenal's preparations for the City fixture were further disrupted by an extraordinary situation behind the scenes, as 3 squad members ended up missing 3 days of training before the defeat against Pep Guardiola's men last Wednesday. Now again, you know, I don't want to speculate, but I did think the players against City were the ones that stuck well fit. And, you know, you look at Saka, Aubameyang, a couple of other these players that started against Brighton, they're the ones that have probably looked after themselves more so during the lockdown. But, you know, again, someone like Mesut Ozil, he wasn't in the squad. We heard a lot's happened to him and things. And, you know, a lot of people have passed judgment, have got their opinions. Could he be one of them for obvious reasons, people? That obviously missed out against City because he wasn't training because of this. Because you did hear there was concerns about, you know, his child and his wife, and there's rumours of, you know, he's getting something going in terms of living arrangements for them in Turkey. Pardon me, I don't know the truth in that, but when I look at that and I compare it to this, you can kind of see legs to it. In relation to the other 2, I don't have a clue, but apparently at the end of the preceding week, Arsenal received untimely news that one of their players had tested positive for coronavirus, and in line with the government's protocols, should stealth isolate for 7 days. Now again, this is the scary thing, because obviously, you know, Arsenal, we've come into contact with City players. Again, you know, by then, just because one player's tested positive doesn't mean it hasn't spread. You know, it takes a while before it actually shows up in your symptoms. And we've played against, again, I don't want to speculate, but we played against Brighton and City now, so you can imagine this is also a fact that was going to happen. And to be fair, you know, Spurs played Norwich, and one of their midfielders, Norwich's midfielders, tested positive, and not much was made of it. So maybe people are able to deal with it. Maybe this is, in fact, the Premier League has to have had enough foresight to see this sort of thing coming. This is why I said I can't blame players if they said they're not playing part in the season again, but it is what it is. Worse still, it quickly emerged that the player had spent enough time socialising alongside 2 teammates for it to be classed as close contact, coming within 2 metres of an individual who has tested positive for more than 15 minutes. Both of them needed to respect public health guidance by entering a 14-day period of quarantine. Given that everyone in the previous round of Arsenal's testing showed as negative, nobody was displaying symptoms, and the movements of the players who recorded a positive result gave no cause for concern, Arsenal strongly suspected this was likely to be a false positive. Amid frantic activity and dialogue in the background, they took private samples on Saturday and Sunday to double check or not whether the player had the virus or had contracted it in the past, and both came back as negative. The 3 players therefore took part in the next round of official testing last Monday, and each received good news 24 hours later. The league was satisfied, and thanks to the green light from the government, the trio were cleared to rejoin training in time for the 5 PM session on Tuesday. This was the first time in 4 days that they were allowed to practice. Following the chaotic build-up, the players were in the group that travelled to Manchester City on Wednesday and featured versus City. So again, probably not Mesut Ozil. Or maybe Mesut Ozil, you know, thought to himself, I want to stay away from these players, and that's why he hasn't trained. But the players that have travelled, I don't know. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. And that's quite scary, to be fair with you. As you lot know, like I said, Spurs and Norwich played a friendly. Probably, and one of Norwich's players contracted it. So again, I don't want to speculate on something so sensitive, but it is quite concerning, because you're kind of, I'm sure all fans were wary of the knock-on effects. Like, again, it's nice to see society is getting back to normal within degree. You know, Boris Johnson allegedly tomorrow might say pubs are back open and things, but you are wary of, with no real vaccination and with us intricating again, is there going to be a second wave, you know, and things like that. Not trying to scare anybody, but you do have to consider that. And footballers, considering the amount of people they've come into close contact with already, you can see how there's problems. And, you know, one thing I'm scared of is a team that, you know, imagine being on the eve of the playoff final, Champions League final, you know, top four running for those teams, Arsenal excluded, that are in it. Imagine now, you know, there's been a mass similar to what happened under ARTETA. Arsenal players had to, one of the first to start self-quarantining and things because of the positive result. What happens on the eve of these competitions or decisive games where, you know, it strikes and a number of their players have it? So whether the players that don't have it or not, they have to self-isolate. That's your 25-man, 14 to 25-man group of players out of the game. So what would happen then? Would they have to forfeit? Would it be rescheduled when these players are back? Because, you know, the opponents can't be held accountable for that, and they would say, you know, it's not really fair on them that they have to reschedule this. So there's a lot of grey areas in relation to, you know, if there is a second wave or if someone does get contracted, what happens and what is the plan? But I don't know enough to speculate, so I'm not going to speculate any further on such, people. On that note, it's always a pleasure. People, Deluded, I'm out.